press play, you'll see that it sort of fades down into the front of the building of the skate park. Um, and as you can also see, it sort of blurs in and out of focus, which I also quite like. But it is, even though I did film it on the Ronin, it is still a little bit wobbly, which I was a bit annoyed about. But that's the best one I recorded. I did take a few tries to record it. That's the best one I got. I then cut to a sort of a pan of the whole skate park because I just wanted to get a nice establishing shot of where this video was sort of taking place. I then sort of faded out, and then I faded in to an interview with Kathy, who is the owner of the skate park. And this is where the biggest problem of my FMP sort of comes into play, and it's the audio of the subjects who I'm interviewing. It's the audio of them speaking. Now, I tried my best to film with the lapel mics, but I couldn't work it out on a day, and I've soon, or after I realised that the lapel mics were actually muted. But um, yeah, so on the day I had to try and record with the H4n Zoom mic and actually record them speaking by just laying the Zoom mic next to them, and it didn't really work because it was just picking up all of the Atmos sound around instead of the subject actually speaking. So I had to use my shotgun mic that I had on the top of my camera to use the audio, and that picked up the voice just a bit better than the Zoom mic. So that's what the audio is coming from.
Manager here. For 10 years we started it. We formed the charity in 2007 and then we took the building over in 2008. We started as a skateboarding charity and we use
With
the
Kathy's
term
interview, it's actually, oh
Voiceover.
yeah, with Kathy's interview, it's not that bad because she does talk quite loudly, and you can still sort of hear her. But as you'll see in one of the upcoming interviews with Jack, one of the pupils at the lessons, he talks very quietly, and you can't understand what he's saying unless you're looking or reading his lips. So here I just overlaid a bit of B-roll footage of some of the lessons happening at skate park over her interview, and showing some of the instructors with the pupils talking
They
and
get back home
just having a good time
motivated
really.
and their self-esteem improves and it just teaches them the walk in the park.
With the audio issues that I was having, I tried to
They use
use some effects in Premiere
they
Pro
learn to make friends
to
and
sort of
feel
cut out any of
secure
the external noise
by
from the skate park
teaching
out of it,
some of the
but
others about
unfortunately
their
it didn't really work because it was thinking that the subject speaking was actually the background noise, but it wasn't, and it was cutting out the subject speaking, which is what I didn't want to happen. So I had to use the audio as it was. Um, so after the interview's finished, I just faded out to black.
friends
You can hear the
from
music
all
get a
the
bit
other
louder,
people
and
to help them to
then I just play a couple of clips of B-roll of just pupils talking to instructors and just sort of what happens at the lessons and how the teachers sort of communicate with the pupils.
Hi, I'm Reese Catherine. I'm
So this
15
is an
years
interview
old.
with Reese, who is
I've
a
been coming to
instructor at the
skate
skate
park since
park.
I was like
Um,
8, which is about 7 years now.
so he
I've
talks quite
started
loudly as well, which
teaching
is
it
good.
as
So
well
you
because it
can you
helps
can
out the
hear what he's
younger
saying.
people and it helps
But
Kathy as well
some of his answers,
because
he does sound
she needs
very
help
sort
with
of
all the
scripted and
autism.
automated. But he
I
wasn't.
want
He
to
had no
continue
script to
teaching
follow.
UConn because it
But
helps
he
all the
sort of
younger people
he
and
really tried
gets
to
them to
put the
learn how to
question
run
back into
skate.
that answer, but he
I
tried
think
too hard, and it sort of seemed
the people that like they
a
when they
bit as
come
if he was
teaching it, they
trying to
learn
put
like all these
words in
tricks and
his mouth
like
that he
stuff to
didn't
get
want to
ahead.
say, which
And
he
in the
wasn't, but it just
future, they
sounds
can
like that
get sponsored
sometimes.
by a team if they're good enough. People should come to Union One lessons because when they come, they learn about the
Something
skate
that
park, they
I
learn
think
the
I could have
rules,
also
and
added
it's a
into this
safe
video
environment for them
was
to learn.
maybe like a little, if I just go back to
Because
here, maybe like a little kind of like box here. Maybe it says his name and says that he's an instructor, because at the moment there's no way to distinguish whether he is an instructor or a pupil of the lessons. So I think maybe if I sort of put a box, sort of slide it in and said Reese, instructor at Unit 1 Skate Park, then I think that could have sort of helped people distinguish who he was and sort of whether he was an instructor or a pupil really. But then again, the music rises a little bit, I show a few more clips of instructors and pupils at the lessons. And this shot, I really like this shot because I like the way it sort of, not this one, the next one. I really like the way it sort of, the camera pans up, pans to the side and sort of tilts all in sort of one go. It was a little bit bumpy because I was trying to step like carefully without falling into the bowl. But yeah, so this is the interview with Jack, who's the pupil at the lessons, and he was very nervous coming into the interview because he wasn't sure about doing it, and at first he said no, but then after a while I convinced him and he said yes. But he talks very quietly and it's very hard to understand what he's saying unless you literally read his lips. And another thing with Jack's interview is that he didn't put the question back into the answer at all. So I'd answer him a question like you're going to hear now. He answers with yes instead of saying. So I asked him, does he enjoy coming to the lessons? And instead of saying I enjoy coming to the lessons because, he says yes. Now that's sort of my fault because I didn't really tell him to put the question into the answer. But I feel like you can sort of understand what he's getting at, even though he does say yes and not I like or whatever, repeating the question in the answer. I feel as if you can still understand what it is that he's trying to say.
Yes, because there's lots of people around me learning similar stuff. I've learned how to drop into a ramp correctly without.
One of the questions that I was asking the pupils was what are the skills that they've learned that aren't necessarily tricks. So I was looking for answers such as, I don't know, confidence or like self-belief, something like that. But they did, because the pupils are quite young, they didn't really understand what I was asking, and they was all sort of saying like, "Oh, I've learnt this trick, I've learnt that trick," and they wasn't really understanding where I was going with that question. So the interviews with the pupils are usually like their sort of fourth answer is always like a trick or something like that, and it's not actually I've got more confident or I've got a lot of self-esteem now or something like that. And as an example there, as I was saying, it was picking up the Atmos sound rather than the subject singing. You can hear the lady in the background saying "come back" louder than you can actually hear Jack giving his interview. And that's just the biggest problem with this video. And then again, fades out, the audio rises, he goes back to some shots of pupils and teachers in lessons.
George says that I'm 14.
So this is an interview with George, who's also another instructor, and he talks quite loud, which is good. But at first he didn't really put the question back into the answer, and he sort of stuttered quite a bit with his answers.
Talk into like people they don't know, or like socialising sort of thing. It helps them.
And here you can just about hear, because it was sort of the first song was fading out, and I put a new song in that faded in, and they sort of overlapped a little bit, and you can hear the new song sort of fading in as he's speaking. Now both of these songs that are in the video both come from a copyright-free YouTube channel, and they're both just random songs off of there. They're not random, but I looked into all the songs, and they're just two different videos off of that page, or two different audio like soundtracks off of that page that I think sort of fit with the vibe that I was going to with for the video. It's quite sort of calm and relaxing, but I wanted it to still sort of have a bit of a beat to it, because that's what I think a lot of skatepark videos thrive off of, is the beat that everything sort of goes to.
Socialising sort of thing.
So you can hear the new song coming in now.
Them, like,
There's just another little clip of a teacher talking to students, and then the audio rises again, shows a bit more of the skate park and the lessons. something that I've noticed in a couple of clips as well is that the students are looking, like, look at the camera. So for example, you can see this kid here looks at the camera as he comes out of the ramp, which obviously I can't really stop him from doing that, but it's just something that kids do when there's a camera. This shot, this is one of my favorite shots from the whole video. I just like the way that, because you've got this big wall full of this cool art, and it sort of turns around and you can just see a wide shot of the skate park, some kids, some instructors, and they all just look like they're having a good time, and I think that's just a nice shot. This next interview is with Grace. She's a little girl who goes to the lessons. She's a pupil. I think this interview is quite important because it shows that it's not just boys that are at the skate park. There are a couple of other girls that go to the lessons, and I think this could, by showing a girl in this video, could open up a lot of sort of opportunities for other girls to come along to the lessons, so they don't feel like they're going to be the only ones there. And because Grace is a little young girl, her voice is very soft and very quiet, and I think that this is one of probably her and Jack's interviews are both very, very quiet, and it's like very hard to hear them. I tried my best to sort of up their audio levels, but it doesn't work. It just makes the background noise even louder. So I have to deal with what I've got, really. But unfortunately, the day I filmed was the last day that I could actually film at the lessons, because the week after was Bank Holiday Monday, and the week after is the deadline for the project. So that was the only chance I had to actually film this audio. So that's all I have to work with, really. Again, because Grace is young, she sort of struggled to answer some questions and sort of get her words out, but I think a lot of people will understand that because she is young and she is she is very young. But yeah, and then here the audio, the Atmos sound in the background was so loud that the microphone actually stopped. It didn't stop recording, but it was so loud that it like peaked and stopped recording. And her sort of voice just cuts out for a few little like blips in this part of the interview. You can just hear all the Atmos sound go dead for a few like milliseconds, but that's how loud it was in there. This shot was just sort of a little like B-roll clip of Grace talk, because she says, "I've learnt to bunny hop," and you can see her here doing a bunny hop. But this shot it would have been quite nice if she was sort of over here a bit more, because where she is you can't really see her that well, but I think you still get the point that she's learning tricks when she's here and she's having fun. And then at the end I sort of fade out to black, then fade in, and I just do a little montage of just the skate park, people at the lessons, and this is probably my favourite part of the video. I really like this shot as well. It's like the shot I said about before, where he sort of pans up, pans to the side, and sort of shows a wide shot of the whole skate park. And I like in the like B-roll, it's a lot of bits, like if I just go back here, like it's instructor, pupil, go to the next shot, and it's instructor, pupil. It just sort of shows that you're always with someone that's always helping you out, and I think that that's a good thing to show in the video. Like here, there's a couple of pupils, there's an instructor back there, an instructor over there, and you can sort of see that they're always talking and they're always conversing about what's happening. Like here's another instructor and here's a pupil. As I quite like this shot as well, because I'm sort of coming down a ramp and sort of panning up as I'm going with the Ronin. And I think that looks quite effective, but it was still a bit bumpy. But here, these two are still talking, and I like that fade. I think that fade looks quite cool. And then this is probably my favourite part of the video. So it's the last 5 seconds. The song's coming to an end, and there's one last beat in the soundtrack that sort of like it's just the last beat, and I wanted to get something on that beat, and I got the perfect clip that fit the beat, and that is my favorite part of the video because it just shows what the lessons are about. It's all about working together and both progressing, and the final part of the video is a pupil high-fiving an instructor, and he's happy, they're both happy, they're both having a good time, and that's what I think stands out about my video, is the fact that it shows teamwork, it shows younger and older people working together, and I think that's just what I like to put across in my videos, and especially a promotional video like this, trying to get more people to come to the lessons. But yeah, apart from that, I think my video went really well. The only thing that I'd say obviously didn't go great was the audio in the interviews, but obviously I can't do anything about that. That's done now. But if I could go back and change it, of course I'd definitely try and redo the audio. But as it is, I think that's the best video that I could have made with what I had. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.